All right, here we go. As promised, we're in Jackson, Tennessee, and we'll be talking to Johnny Cash's one and only drummer, all the years, just made a great career for himself. And we're going to talk to him about a couple of things that we talked to about people who've been very successful. We're in W.S. Holland's music room here. You may have seen pictures of this before. This is kind of a one-of-a-kind drum set. Of all the drum sets he had over the years, this was his personal favorite right here. So let's have a chat with W.S. Holland, Johnny Cash's only drummer. There he is, got the shades on. Okay, W.S., I'm sure you've had a million interviews over the years. I just want to talk about a couple of things. And one is, how do you tell people out there who want to be musicians, how do they get to a better level than where they are, move up the ladder, that kind of a thing? Because when I talk to everybody who's done well, the two things that come out is A, keep practicing, work hard, and B, be in the right place. What was the thing for you that got you from a guy who wasn't really thinking about music to the loftiest position?
You just said something right there that explains it all. Like you say, I do a lot of interviews, and I tell people, I say, the main thing is if you can, no matter what instrument you're playing, or if you're singing, or if you're a group, whatever, if you can do something that nobody has ever heard or seen, then I even go as far as saying, hey, find me one person or a group or a band or whatever, and let me go hear them and see them perform. And if I have never seen or heard a sound like they make, I can manage some way to make them a big star. That's what I think is the main thing. Of course, being good is really, really great, but there is a lot of players, even drummers like me and you. There's a lot of them that's really good, but they kind of all play about the same. Same with the guitar, piano. Think about this. Here's what's amazing to me, how that. Well, let's pick a piano player. And the piano's the same, hands the same, but when they touch the same keys now, nothing different. Like a Floyd Kramer or Liberace or whoever it might be, when they touch the keys for some reason, it sounds different. And same thing with the guitar player. Guitar player with the same strings, everything's out there, tuned the same, but one person would pick it up when he puts his hands on it and strums it, it sounds different. And I don't know if anybody knows why that is. For example, a guitar player, just one we'll talk about, which I think is probably one of the most famous guitar player in the world, was Luther Perkins, Johnny Cash's guitar player, when he went into Sun Records in 1955. Now Luther, when he touched that guitar, same kind of guitar that one of the great guitar players at that time might have, but when Luther played it, it sounded different. I think that's one of the big things that made Johnny Cash be such a big star for so long, is the one person that made it happen, and really as much as John did, was Luther, that sound that he had. If you don't have that sound when you're doing a Johnny Cash song, it's not hardly like it. But in my case, see, I didn't have any idea what I was doing. And when I started playing, it was a little different than some of the drummers. But I had a lot more advantage of that, because when I started in 1954, there wasn't all that many drummers in. The big bands had the drums, but the little bands, nobody had the drums. And so I had the advantage right off, being pretty well the only one, so I was lucky. But that's kind of the way that I try to tell them, no matter how good you play or what instrument you play, try to keep on, and do something that sounded a little different from what everybody's been hearing. And I think that's what made Sun Records happen. Everybody that went into Sun Records was Sam Phillips in the 50s, 55 to 60. I don't think it was anybody I don't think you'd actually consider them really great at doing anything. But when somebody sang a song, it was something different. And when somebody played an instrument, it was something different. And Sam Phillips was smart enough to realize that it was different, and he just let us all do the only thing we could do. Being different, I think, is a big answer, but it does help now if you're pretty good. It helps.
It's good to have talent, but it's also good to be in the right place at the right time,
Yeah.
and also try to come up with something different. That's kind of the nut of it, isn't it?
Well, that's true. There again, in my case, if I had have been anywhere other than where I was, it would have never happened. And a lot of things happens that you don't plan, and it causes something else to happen. Like in my case, I was born, lived in a little town 50 miles from here, down on the Tennessee River, and my dad just never been sick a day in his life, never thought about even going to a doctor, no drinking, no smoking, come in from work one night and just passed away, and I was 10 years old. Now, later, like right now when I talk about that, now as bad as that was, if my dad had lived to be a normal age, he was 42, and he died in 45. And if he had lived to be a normal age, I would have never left South Hello. The reason I did that, my mom met a man in Bemis, and 2 or 3 years after my dad's passing away, they got married. And that's the reason we came to Bemis. Now, at the same time, Carl Perkins and his family was moving to Bemis from a little town 50 miles north of here. That's how we all met. So if my dad had lived, then I never would have left South Hello, and I don't know what I would have done. But because of that happening, it created a situation for something else to happen. And there's a lot of it you got no control over. It's just things happen. And most of my life, everything that I've done or happened with me is just nothing planned, nothing even thought about it, just happening.
I got to ask you something about as we talked about a little bit earlier before we start this recording. We were in Nashville yesterday, and we went through the Johnny Cash Museum, and both my wife and I said, "Look at all the people here at this place. Most of them younger people who would have been babies when Johnny Cash passed away." And we were thinking, what is it about not just him, but there was you were part of the flavor, Marcia was part of the player, Luther was part of the flavor, everybody else, Carl Perkins, all these folks who started things off were part of the flavor of something. So what is the legacy that your gang is going to leave behind?
Well, one thing that I'm so honored and happy over to leave behind is just what you guys are doing today. Imagine how this makes me feel for y'all. You're down here from Canada. You're in Nashville to see all the big happenings. You've been to the museum. It's one of the great ones. And you got in your car and drove 130 miles over here to be with Joyce and our family for a few minutes. See, that's what makes me feel so good. And why? See, I think, now, why does anybody, and we have people who come in here from all over the world just to see a picture hanging on the wall or hear me talk about playing. I don't even have the words really to let anybody know how I feel about that. Fact being, I was in Sweden a few weeks ago, and a guy was doing an interview, just like you are here, and he's asking me. He said, "WS, all this thing that you've been in the music business, and all the things that's happened, and work with Johnny Cash and people like that. What could, in 5 words, how could you sum that up?" And I said, "Well, I'm really not all that sure, but in 5 words, I guess I'd have to say, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you." And he seemed to like that. I think he played it on the radio. But it's one of those things that I don't really have the words. I kid about this a lot. I say I wished I had been able to have gone to college, so maybe I might have been able to learn the words to express how I feel. But I guess about the only one I learned was thank you. And I had so much good luck, too. Everything was, it's like when Joyce and I met. Now, she had a job at the telephone company, and I'd come in off a tour, and I'd go by and get her, and we'd go to some of the clubs around. And this was in 1960 now. Well, really when I met is the late 50s. And we'd spent all of our money, Carl and Clayton and Jay and me. And I'd spent all my money that I made off of blue suede shoes and touring for that many years on speedboats and cars and black hair dye.
The important things of life.
Oh, yeah. and I met Joyce, and I was 3 payments behind on my car. Didn't know how I was going to make the next payment. And I met her, and she had a car paid for, had a house paid for, had a good job, and she finally talked me into marrying her. So see how I've been lucky all my life.
I think
and so.
It's been great to talk to you. Thank you very much for your time, and we appreciate you opening your doors to us. I want to give the last word to the lady who probably sometimes had the last word in things. We're going to go and talk to Joyce.
I want to tell you what I'm going to do. Oh. Go ahead. I forgot this. The reason I want to tell you, this is going to be something y'all, Paul and all of you will want to go to. On my 100th birthday, I'm going to have a big birthday party. I don't know exactly where it'll be yet because it's got to be a big venue. And I invite all my friends, and I'm going to do something spectacular. On my 100th birthday, I'm going to do something that I've never done before. I'm going to smoke a cigarette and take a drink of whiskey. And somebody, when I tell them that, a lot of people say, "Man, what are you going to do if you like it? All these years passed and you didn't know it and you like it." I said, "I'm going to stay drunk the rest of my life."
That's good. We'll watch to see if that happens. Now then, I want to finish off with Joyce. Now, Joyce didn't know I was going to have a chat with you. I know you don't. You're going to say one thing to me. I only have one question for you, Joyce. In an industry where family relations go by the wayside real easy, how did you keep the whole thing together with you, WS, your kids, all that kind of stuff?
I'm just mean and tough. They didn't have a choice.
I don't think it was that. Any other words of wisdom?
No, it was not a problem. He's always been, real family oriented. like he said, he's never even smoked a cigarette, taken a drink or anything, never fooled around. And when he was not on the road, he was home with the family. And of course, he loved boat racing, and we took the family, went all over the country to boat races, and everything we did was as a family when he was not on the road. And we went on the road with him quite a bit, so.
You couldn't stray too far.
No. He was scared to.
Joyce, W.S. Holland, inviting us into their house here in Jackson, Tennessee. And I hope you've enjoyed this little interview.
Well, thank y'all for